A further point about the minyan, about the quorum that's necessary in order to daven. In Siman Nun Hey, the Chinuch discusses the fact that you need a quorum for other things, not only for the Shemona Esrei, but also for Kaddish and Kedusha in the Shemona Esrei. And that's the subject of the Siman. But in Seif Dalet, in paragraph Dalet, the Mechaber says this: Yesh matir lomar davar shebekedusha b'tziruf katan. You're saying davar shebekedusha, you're saying Shemona Esrei, or you're saying Kedusha, or you're saying Kaddish, and you suddenly find that you don't have a minyan, but you have 9 adults and 1 fellow who's less than bar mitzvah. But he's more than 6. And he knows what tefillah is about. We ask him, what are you doing? I'm davening. We're davening to God. It's a mitzvah. The Mechaber himself says that this is an unacceptable position. And furthermore, he says, it's also true that a slave and a woman cannot make the minyan. So the Ramah has something to say. The Ramah has something to say about this idea of adding a young boy to the minyan. And he says, Afilu al yedei chumash shebiyado ein letzarfo. Even if this young man is holding a chumash in his hand, and somehow that sort of gives him a claim to majority, you should not make him part of the minyan. Miu yesh noagim lahakel b'shat hadchak. But there are those who say that in a kind of an emergency, it's possible to allow that young man with the chumash to become part of the minyan, and there are poskim who actually say that. The Mishnah Berurah says that what is the sha'at hadchak? What is the emergency? He says in an emergency, he says what the Ramah means is that you can add a child to the minyan even if he's not holding a chumash. As long as you only need 1 and not 2. The Levush disagrees, and then the Mishnah Berurah continues and says, in our days, in our time, I've seen in many places that this minhag is accepted, that we hold on to a chumash. You give a young man a chumash to hold on, and you count him in the minyan. But the Mishnah Berurah says that this is only for Baruch Hu and Kaddish, which are obligatory. But Kaddish that we say after Aleinu, that's not true. And many Achronim, Poskim, say that you should never do this. You should never add a katan, a person less than bar mitzvah, to the minyan, even in an emergency, until we have to wait until he becomes 13 years old. 13 years old. So this is like a well-known kind of discussion that the halachas have about whether katan is like a little gadol, or he's something else entirely. And since we know that the age when a katan passes to majority of 13 years and a day is very, very arbitrary. I mean, there's no reason to think that a week before or 2 weeks before that the katan would not be able to do the mitzvah with great devotion, even though he still hasn't reached the 13th year. So that there were these different schools of thought. And one was that a katan, maybe if he's 12 years old, can be added to the minyan. And the chumash was just a sign. Let him hold the chumash to show that there's something here that's irregular. there's something irregular about what we are doing. And so generally, we try to avoid it, as the Mishnah Berurah says. We don't want to allow young people less than bar mitzvah to become part of a minyan, whether it's for Shmona Esrei or the Dvarim Shebekdusha. And sometimes, in an emergency, in some part of a special situation, it may be permitted, but we should definitely try to avoid using somebody less than 13 years of age as part of the minyan.